Hey there, welcome back to No Recipe Required. This is Dave. Today I'm going to do steak tacos. Now, steak tacos is something I do fairly frequently, probably once every 2 weeks or so. So I'm always looking for different ways to change it up, spice it up, keep it a little more interesting. Today I'm using a marinade to do that. I'm going to do a steak adobo, which is essentially a sauce or a marinade that combines some citrus, a little bit of garlic and onion, along with some spices. It's absolutely delicious. Okay, let's go ahead and get started and make our marinade. I'm going to start with the liquids, which really is the juice of an orange. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze that. I like to make my my marinades like this in a bowl. Just makes it a little easier to mix together. Let's get both of those halves in there. And the orange, you know, gives it a nice citrus flavor, brings sweetness to it. And then I also add the juice of a lime. Now sometimes your limes and frankly your lemons can be a little stingy with the juice. I like to roll mine on the board before I cut them. You know, essentially just take them whole before you cut them. Roll them like that with some pressure on it, and that'll free up some of the juices there. If they're not giving up much juice, you know, go ahead and you can add a little bit of water. You can add, frankly, just grab another orange, grab another lime, or if you've got grapefruit, frankly, any kind of citrus like that is going to be fine. We're going to go ahead and add a chopped half an onion. I've got 2 cloves of garlic. I've got some cilantro. And then I'm going to start adding together my spices. Now the ratios, frankly, the ratios don't matter a whole lot. I've got, you know, maybe a teaspoon of oregano in there. You know, the important thing is just to kind of keep it balanced. I'm going to put in about the same amount of cumin, cinnamon. I'm going to add in, you know, it's fairly strong and pungent, so I'm going to put in significantly less of that. I've got some chili powder here, probably about the same amount as cumin, and a little cayenne. Now my cayenne is pretty hot and spicy, so I'm not going to add a ton. And then I'm going to add some honey. Okay, I've got my spices and fruit juice all mixed together. I'm going to add a little bit of vinegar. This is red wine vinegar or sherry vinegar. If you just had red wine or white wine vinegar, that'd be totally fine as well. I didn't add any salt to this, and that was on purpose. I do, however, like to add in a little bit of oil. I think that kind of helps keep the meat nice and juicy. So I'm going to go ahead and marinate my steak. What I'm using is a piece of skirt steak, which I like to use for steak tacos like this. You know, they come out, it's really a long strip that's folded over a couple times here. You know, you can cut it in half now. I like to cut it in half before I cook it. You could do that now. You could do that after you marinate it. I also like marinating in these bags as opposed to the bowls, because it's just easier to manipulate everything around. I'm going to go ahead and drop my marinade right in that bowl. Try and scrape out as much as you can. Hey there, so along with my steak tacos, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of onion and bell pepper. So I'm just going to cut these down in strips, maybe get a little bit more bell pepper on there. And I'm just going to softly saute these until they are nice and soft, have a little bit of color on them. Okay, for our peppers and onions, I've just got a pan on the heat, and I'm going to go ahead and toss in. I don't mind doing the peppers and the onions at the same time. And the temperature on the pan, I don't know if you can hear, there actually is not a lot of sizzle there, but that's okay, because I'm going to cook these for probably half an hour or so on medium temperature, and just get them nice and soft, broken down, a little bit of color, a little bit of salt there, and a little bit of pepper. Give them a quick toss. Hey there, so my onions and red bell pepper have sauteed down, gotten very soft and started caramelizing. I'm essentially done with these. So I'm just going to turn off the heat and then let them sit. They can. Nice thing about this, you can get them done early. You can do these a good hour, 2 hours, however long before you actually want to serve them. Just let them sit and then reheat them once we're ready to serve our tacos. I want to do this step about an hour before I'm actually going to cook the meat. That way I give the meat time to come back up to room temperature, which is what I'm looking for. I'm going to go ahead and salt and pepper both sides, and then let it, like I said, let it rest, let it come up to temperature for about 20-30 minutes to an hour, depending on how big the piece of meat is. And then we'll go ahead and cook these off. So it's time to cook off our steak for our Adobo Steak Tacos. Normally, you know, skirt steak is awesome on the grill. I'd be out there grilling it, but frankly, it's pitch black out there and I want you guys to see what I'm doing. So I've got my steak here. I'm going to start with the thickest piece and just go ahead and lay that down on a super hot pan. And then, you know, follow that up with the next thickest piece. And then this one is so thin, I'm actually going to let these two go for about 30 seconds or so before I put this one on. Okay, so I just flipped over my steaks. I like to, you know, make sure I'm getting that good caramelization on the edges there. The brown in the pan. Remember, we put a little bit of honey in the marinade. That could scare you a little bit, make it look a little bit darker, but it's perfectly fine. Just let it keep going. The steak won't get overcooked, won't get burned. I'm going to let this go for probably 2 or 3 more minutes, maybe a total cooking time of 7 or 8 minutes. Okay, so my steak is done. I'm going to go ahead, pull these pieces out, and like I said, we want to let them rest. So I like to just, you know, kind of stack them up, and then I'll wrap this foil around it. Okay, so our skirt steak is rested. I just pulled it off the foil. We're going to go ahead and cut it up. Now, skirt steak has a very defined grain to it, and this grain is running this way in the meat, and you want to try and cut against the grain. So I'm going to go ahead and cut nice long strips like this, and that cutting against the grain is going to get you a more tender piece of meat. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up my steak, and then we'll put them all together with the shells. So one of the things I like to do with the shells is heat them up before I use them. That cuts down on some of that raw flavor and also loosens them up, makes them a little bit easier to handle. Okay, so I've got my tortillas prepared now. I like to lay down a couple pieces of the steak on each one, and then, you know, the toppings or the fixings are really, obviously, they're up to you, and you can get pretty creative with them. I think maybe I'll go 3 pieces each. Here I've got a little bit of the peppers and onions that we sauteed earlier. Let me throw a little of those on each, and then maybe a little guacamole, and then you can go with some sour cream. And how about maybe a little cheese? Obviously, you know, you can play it up, do each one a little bit different, enjoy them however you want. Some steak adobo tacos. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.